The deep silence of space was broken by a strange signal. It was weak, almost like a whisper among the stars, but the computers aboard the Earth ship Hope's Dawn caught it clearly. The signal repeated over and over, carrying the same message. "Help us, please help us." Captain Tom Reed stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the unknown signal's pattern flash across the main screen. His gray eyes narrowed as he studied the data. After 20 years in space, he had never seen anything quite like this. The signal wasn't using any known alien language, yet somehow their computers could understand it perfectly. "What do you think, Captain?" asked Dr. Ann White, the ship's lead scientist. She pushed her glasses up her nose, a habit she had when she was excited about something new. "The signal seems to be coming from the Orion Arm, about 3 light years from here." Tom walked closer to the screen, his boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. "It's clear enough. Someone out there needs help, and we're the closest ship." He turned to his crew, all of them waiting for his decision. "Plot a course. We're going to check it out." The Hope's Dawn changed direction, its massive engines pushing it through space toward the source of the mysterious signal. As they got closer, they began to pick up more signals. Images started coming through, showing creatures that glowed with soft blue light. Their cities looked like they were made of crystal, sparkling under the light of their planet's twin suns. "They're beautiful," whispered Anne, watching the images with wide eyes. But then the pictures changed. Dark ships appeared, attacking the glowing cities. The peaceful aliens had no weapons, no way to fight back. They could only run and hide as raiders stole their precious crystals. After 3 days of travel, the Hope's Dawn reached the planet. It was mostly ocean, with islands of crystal formations that reached up toward the sky. The cities were built into these crystals, looking like they had grown naturally from the planet itself. "Captain," called out Jim Green from his station at communications, "we're being hailed. They want to talk." Tom straightened his uniform, put them through on the main screen. The screen lit up, showing one of the glowing aliens. It looked almost human, except for its blue, luminescent skin and slightly larger eyes. When it spoke, its whole body pulsed with light. "Greetings, travelers," the alien said, its voice gentle and musical. "I am first speaker for the Brightwalkers. We thank you for answering our call." Tom stepped forward. "I'm Captain Tom Reed of the Earth ship Hope's Dawn. We're here to help." The first speaker's glow dimmed slightly. "We have watched your approach, Captain. Your ship, it carries weapons." "Yes," Tom answered honestly. "We use them only for defense." "Defense." The first speaker said the word like it was new to them. "We have never needed such things before. Our people focused on healing, on creating beauty. But now," the alien's glow flickered with sadness. "Now the raiders come. They take our healing crystals, destroy our homes. We don't know how to stop them." Tom looked around at his crew, seeing the same determination in their eyes that he felt. These people needed more than just a rescue. They needed to learn how to protect themselves. "If you'll allow us," Tom said carefully, "we can help you learn to defend yourselves. Not to hurt others, but to protect what's yours." The first speaker's glow brightened with hope. "You would teach us, share your knowledge." "Yes," Tom smiled. "That's what humans do. We help those who need it, and we teach others to stand on their own." The first speaker seemed to think for a moment, its light shifting through different shades of blue. Finally, it nodded. "Then, Captain Reed, please come down to our city. Let us learn from each other." As the Hope's Dawn moved into orbit around the crystal planet, Tom knew this was just the beginning. Humans had found not just another alien race, but potential friends who needed their help. And maybe, just maybe, both species would learn something valuable from each other. The crystal city of the Brightwalkers was even more beautiful up close. Tom Reed and his small team walked through streets that seemed to be made of pure light. Their footsteps made soft musical notes as they walked, and everywhere they looked, the peaceful aliens went about their daily lives, their bodies glowing with gentle blue light. Dr. Ann White couldn't stop taking notes on her tablet. "Amazing," she said, watching a group of Brightwalkers tend to a garden of crystal flowers. They'd built their entire society around healing and creating beauty. Jack Stone, the ship's military advisor, walked beside them with a worried look on his face. His years of combat experience made him see things differently. Beautiful, yes, but also completely defenseless. No walls, no barriers, not even a single guard post. The first speaker led them through the city, explaining as they walked. "For 10,000 years, we lived in peace. We grew our healing crystals, developed our arts, and studied the mysteries of life. The aliens' glow dimmed slightly. Then the raiders discovered us. They found out our crystals could heal almost any injury. That's when the attacks began. They entered a large building made of spiral crystal towers. Inside, hundreds of Brightwalkers worked with glowing crystals, using them to heal sick and injured members of their species. The crystals grew naturally in deep caves beneath the city, and the Brightwalkers had learned to use their natural glow to help them grow faster. "This is our main healing center," the first speaker explained. "But now we lose more crystals to raiders than we can grow. Soon, we won't have enough to help our own people." Tom watched a young Brightwalker heal an elder's injury with just a touch of a crystal. "How often do the raiders come?" "Every few weeks, sometimes in small ships, sometimes in large fleets." The first speaker's light pulsed with sadness. "We hide in the caves when they come. It's all we know how to do." Jack stepped forward. "You need more than just protection from our ships. You need to learn to protect yourselves." The first speaker's glow flickered with interest. "But we have no weapons. We don't even know how to fight." "Fighting isn't just about weapons," Jack explained. "It's about strategy, about using what you have. And you have some amazing natural advantages." Anne nodded excitedly. "Your bioluminescence, for example. You can control it perfectly. That could be very useful in defense." The first speaker led them deeper into the building, to a room filled with old records. "Our history speaks of a time, long ago, when we did know how to protect ourselves, but we chose to focus on peace and healing instead. Perhaps—" The alien paused, its glow shifting to a thoughtful purple. "Perhaps it's time to remember those old ways." Tom looked around the room, an idea forming in his mind. "We won't teach you to be violent. That's not what you need. But we can teach you to protect yourselves while staying true to who you are." A group of younger Brightwalkers had gathered nearby, their lights pulsing with curiosity. One of them stepped forward. "We want to learn," it said. "We want to protect our home, our crystals, our way of life." The first speaker looked at them all, its glow now a mixture of hope and determination. "Then let us learn. Show us how to defend without losing ourselves." Tom smiled. "We'll start tomorrow. But first, we need to understand more about your people, your abilities. The best defense will come from using your natural strengths." As they walked back through the Crystal City, Jack was already making plans. These peaceful beings had potential. Their quick minds, their natural grace, their ability to control light itself. They wouldn't need to become warriors. They just needed to learn how to keep their peace safe. The sun was setting, making the entire city sparkle like a million diamonds. Tomorrow, they would begin teaching the Brightwalkers how to defend themselves. But tonight, they would learn more about these remarkable beings who had chosen peace above all else. Early morning light sparkled across the Crystal City as Jack Stone stood before a group of 50 Brightwalkers. They had chosen an open space near the healing center for their first training session. The aliens watched him with curious glows, their lights shifting between blue and green with excitement. "The first rule of defense," Jack said, walking among them, "is to use what you already have." He stopped and pointed to a young Brightwalker. "Can you make your glow brighter?" The alien nodded and suddenly blazed with intense light, making several humans shield their eyes. Jack smiled. "That's perfect. You see? You already have a way to defend yourselves." Dr. Ann White stood nearby, recording everything. Their light control is amazing, she said to Tom. They can change intensity, color, even create patterns. The training began simply. Jack taught them how to use their light to blind attackers temporarily. The Brightwalkers learned quickly, their natural grace making them excellent students. Soon the practice area was filled with flashing lights as they practiced. "Good," Jack called out. "Now, remember, defense isn't about hurting others. It's about protecting yourselves and those you care about." One of the Brightwalkers, who they called Teacher, stepped forward. "In our archives, I found records of our ancestors using light patterns to communicate over long distances. Could we use this for defense?" "Absolutely," Tom said, joining the group. "Communication is crucial in defense. Show us how it works." Teacher demonstrated, creating complex patterns of light that rippled across their body. Other Brightwalkers quickly picked up the technique, and soon they were sending silent messages across the training ground. As the day went on, they discovered more ways to use the Brightwalkers' natural abilities. Their connection to the crystals proved especially useful. They could sense when crystals were being moved or taken, which would help them track raiders. "Now," Jack said in the afternoon, "let's try something more active." He set up simple obstacles around the training area. Sometimes you need to move quickly and quietly. Your natural grace gives you an advantage here. The Brightwalkers took to the obstacle course with surprising skill. Their bodies, used to working in the crystal caves, moved smoothly over, under, and around barriers. They learned to dim their glow when hiding and brighten it suddenly when they needed to surprise an opponent. Near sunset, they faced their first test. Jack organized a mock raid, with some of his human crew playing the role of raiders. The Brightwalkers put their new skills to use, communicating silently with light patterns, moving stealthily through the obstacles, and using coordinated light flashes to disorient the raiders. "Impressive," Tom said, watching the exercise. "They've learned more in one day than I expected." The first speaker stood beside him, glowing with pride. "We have always been quick learners, but more importantly, we understand now. Defense doesn't mean giving up our peaceful ways. It means protecting them." Suddenly, alarms rang out across the city. Real raiders had been spotted approaching the planet. It was a small group, just 2 ships, but it was a real threat. The Brightwalkers looked to Jack and Tom, their glow flickering with nervousness. Jack stepped forward. "This is it. Remember your training. Work together. We'll be right here with you." The raiders landed on the outskirts of the city, expecting the usual easy target. Instead, they found themselves confronted by waves of disorienting light patterns. When they tried to reach the crystal storage, they got lost in a maze of false signals and bright flashes. The Brightwalkers moved silently through their city, using their new skills to protect their crystals. Within an hour, the frustrated raiders left empty-handed. As the raider ships disappeared into space, cheers erupted across the city. The Brightwalkers' lights pulsed with joy and pride. It was a small victory, but an important one. They had defended themselves without violence, staying true to their peaceful nature while protecting what was theirs. Jack looked at his students with pride. "This is just the beginning," he said. "You have much more to learn, but today proved something important. You can defend yourselves without losing who you are." 2 months had passed since the first successful defense of the Crystal City. The Brightwalkers had grown stronger, more confident, and had begun developing their own unique ways of protecting their home. Today, something new was happening in their main training area. Bill Cooper, the chief engineer from Hope's Dawn, watched in amazement as a group of Brightwalkers demonstrated their latest innovation. They had learned to channel their natural glow through the crystals, creating shields of pure light. "Incredible," Bill said, adjusting his tools to measure the energy output. "They've taken everything we taught them and made it their own." A young Brightwalker named Swift, for their quick learning, stepped forward, holding a large crystal. "Watch this," they said, their glow pulsing with excitement. Swift touched the crystal, and suddenly a dome of shimmering light spread out above them, strong enough to deflect small objects. Jack Stone walked around the light shield, nodding with approval. "You've done more than just learn defense," he said. "You've created something entirely new." The Brightwalkers had discovered that their connection to the crystals went deeper than anyone had realized. By combining their natural abilities with their healing crystals, they had developed defensive systems that no one had ever seen before. In another part of the city, Dr. Ann White was working with a different group. They had found a way to use their bioluminescence to create complex illusions. Raiders would see corridors where none existed, or miss the real passages completely. "The best defense," Anne explained to Tom, "is one that prevents fighting in the first place. These illusions can confuse raiders so much that they'll leave without stealing anything." The first speaker, whose glow had grown stronger and more confident over the weeks, led them to a new chamber deep in the crystal caves. "We have also remembered something from our past," they said. "Our ancestors didn't just use crystals for healing. They used them to power their cities." The chamber was filled with huge crystals, each pulsing with energy. Bill's eyes widened as he examined them. "These could power shield generators," he said. "Real ones, not just the light shields. We could help you build a defense system around the whole city." Tom watched as the Brightwalkers worked together, their lights synchronized as they channeled energy into the crystals. "You've taken everything we taught you about defense and made it uniquely yours," he said. "You're not just copying our methods anymore." Suddenly, an alarm sounded, but it was different from the usual raid warning. This was a test, one the Brightwalkers had planned themselves. Young defenders moved quickly to their positions, their movements smooth and practiced. The test scenario involved protecting a shipment of healing crystals from raiders. Instead of hiding the crystals, the Brightwalkers created a maze of light and illusion. Raiders, other Brightwalkers, tried to reach the crystals but found themselves going in circles, confused by the shifting patterns of light. "They're not just defending anymore," Jack said proudly. "They're controlling the entire situation. The raiders can't steal what they can't find." The Brightwalkers had even developed their own training programs. Younger members learned to use their glow in coordinated patterns, creating complex defensive formations. They called it the Dance of Lights, and it was as beautiful as it was effective. As evening approached, Tom stood with the first speaker, watching the city prepare for night. New crystal-powered shields shimmed into place, protecting the city with layers of energy and light. "When you first came," the first speaker said, their glow soft and thoughtful, "we knew nothing of defense. We could only hide and hope. Now," they gestured at their city, where Brightwalkers moved confidently through their defensive duties. "Now we protect ourselves, but we haven't lost our way. We've grown stronger without becoming violent." Tom smiled. That was the goal all along. Not to change who you are, but to help you protect it. Above them, the twin suns set, their light reflecting off the crystal towers. The city glowed with its own light now, not just beautiful, but strong. The Brightwalkers had evolved, becoming protectors while remaining healers at heart. 3 months into their stay, the crew of Hope's Dawn had learned that they weren't just teachers, they were becoming students too. In the main healing center, Dr. Ann White lay on a crystal bed, watching in amazement as a Brightwalker healer worked on her injured arm. "The pain is just gone," she said, moving her arm that had been hurt during a training exercise. The Brightwalker healer, whose name was Glow, smiled as their light pulsed with gentle blues and greens. "Your bodies respond well to our healing," Glow said. "But what truly helps is your willingness to learn and trust." Across the city, Bill Cooper was working with a group of Brightwalkers in a new research center. They had combined human technology with crystal power to create something extraordinary, defensive shields that could also heal those within them. "It's like nothing we've ever seen before," Bill explained to Tom, showing him the data. "Their healing crystals don't just protect, they strengthen anyone inside the shield's range. Our own crews are reporting faster healing and better health." The first speaker joined them, their glow bright with excitement. "We've learned so much from you about protection, and now we can share our knowledge of healing. It seems fitting that our peoples strengthen each other. In the training grounds, Jack Stone was discovering that he had as much to learn as to teach. The Brightwalkers' dance of lights had proven to be more than just defense. It was a way of moving that made human combat techniques more effective. "It's about flow," a young Brightwalker named Quick explained, demonstrating a smooth movement that Jack tried to copy. "Your strength combined with our grace creates something new." The cultural exchange went beyond just healing and defense. In the evenings, humans and Brightwalkers gathered to share stories and knowledge. The Brightwalkers were fascinated by human history, while the humans were amazed by the Brightwalkers' deep understanding of life and peace. One evening, Tom found himself in the Crystal Archives with the first speaker. "Your people have taught us more than just healing," Tom said, watching recordings of ancient Brightwalker history. "You've shown us that strength doesn't always mean force." The first speaker's glow shifted to deep purple, their color for deep thought. "And you've taught us that peace sometimes needs protection." Perhaps that's why our peoples found each other. We each had something the other needed to learn. The humans had started carrying small healing crystals, gifts from their Brightwalker friends. In return, they helped the Brightwalkers set up early warning systems using human technology combined with crystal power. Dr. Ann was the first to notice something remarkable. "The crystals," she said during a research meeting. "They're growing faster now, and they're stronger. It's like they're responding to the combination of our people's knowledge." In the crystal caves, new formations were growing in patterns never seen before. The Brightwalkers called them friend crystals because they had properties of both species understanding, human strength and Brightwalker healing combined. "Look at this," Bill said, scanning a new crystal formation. "These could power defensive systems for an entire fleet, and they still heal just as well as before." The first speaker touched one of the new crystals, their glow synchronizing with its light. "We are changing, growing, not becoming warriors, but becoming stronger healers who can also protect." Tom watched as human crew members and Brightwalkers worked together, their movements now in natural harmony. Gone was the awkward distance of first contact. Now, there was trust, friendship, and deep respect. "We came to teach you defense," Tom said to the first speaker, "but we found something more valuable: true allies and friends." The first speaker's glow brightened. "The Raiders taught us we needed defense, but you taught us we could have both strength and peace. That is a gift beyond measure." Above them, the Crystal City shimmered with combined human and Brightwalker technology, stronger than ever but still beautiful and peaceful. It was a testament to what two species could achieve when they learned from each other. The warning came at dawn. The Crystal City's new early warning system lit up with multiple alerts. The first speaker's glow turned pale with concern as they looked at the scanner screens with Tom and Jack. 15 ships, Jack said grimly. "The biggest raider fleet we've ever seen." He pointed to the scanner. "They're not even trying to hide their approach. They want us to see them coming." Tom's face was serious as he turned to the first speaker. "They must have heard about their friends' failures. Now they're coming in force." The first speaker's glow steadied, showing no fear. "Then we will show them our strength. Alert the defenders." Throughout the Crystal City, Brightwalkers moved with calm purpose. The past months of training had prepared them for this moment. Young defenders took their positions, their lights pulsing in coordinated patterns. The new shield generators hummed to life, powered by the friend crystals. Bill Cooper's voice came over the comm system. "Shield network at full power. The new crystals are performing even better than expected." In the city center, Dr. Ann worked with Brightwalker healers to prepare their medical centers. They had combined their knowledge of human medicine with crystal healing, ready for any emergency. The Raider fleet entered the planet's atmosphere in an attack formation. Their weapons were charged, ready to take by force what they had failed to steal before. But this time, they found a very different Crystal City waiting for them. The first wave of raiders hit the outer shield and found they couldn't break through. The friend crystals powering the shields were too strong. Frustrated, they tried to find gaps in the defense. Now, the first speaker commanded. Hundreds of Brightwalkers began their dance of lights. The city erupted in carefully coordinated patterns of light, creating a maze of illusions. Raider ships became confused, unable to tell real paths from false ones. "They're splitting up," Jack reported, watching the tactical display. "Just like we planned." The raiders, divided and confused, became easy targets. When they tried to land, they found themselves trapped in circles of light and energy. Some ships, attempting to use brute force, found their weapons reflected back at them by the crystal shields. Tom watched as a group of raiders attempted to reach the crystal caves. They ran straight into a trap, a field of light so bright it completely blinded their sensors. When they tried to retreat, they found the way blocked by solid shield walls. "Your move," Tom said to the first speaker. The first speaker nodded and sent a signal. Deep in the crystal caves, the Brightwalkers activated their newest defense. The friend crystals pulsed with power, sending waves of energy through the shield network. Each wave carried not just defensive power, but healing energy. The raiders found their ship's systems failing as the crystal energy interfered with their technology. At the same time, the healing waves began affecting their crews. It was hard to feel angry and violent when surrounded by peaceful, healing energy. One by one, the raider ships retreated. Some tried one last attack, but the combined power of human technology and Brightwalker crystals was too strong. Finally, the last ship turned and flowed into space. The Crystal City erupted in celebration. Brightwalker's lights pulsed with joy, creating beautiful patterns in the sky. Human crew members cheered alongside their alien friends. "We did it," Jack said, smiling. They actually did it. The first speaker's glow was bright and proud. "No, we did it. Without violence, without destroying them. We protected ourselves while staying true to our ways." Tom looked out over the city. Not a single building had been damaged. No one had been hurt. The raiders had been defeated not by violence, but by the combined strength of two civilizations who had learned from each other. "They won't come back," Tom said confidently. "The raiders finally understand. You're not helpless anymore. You never really were. You just needed to find your own way to be strong." The first speaker touched one of the friend crystals, its light synchronizing with their glow. "And we found that strength through friendship, not fear. That is a victory worth celebrating." 1 year had passed since the great battle. The Crystal City had grown more beautiful than ever, its towers reaching higher into the sky. But the biggest changes weren't in the buildings. They were in the people who lived there. Tom stood with the first speaker on a balcony overlooking the city. Below them, a group of young Brightwalkers practiced their defensive arts with some human students who had come to learn their ways. "The first training group arrives next week," the first speaker said, their glow warm with pride. 10 different species, all coming to learn our way of peaceful defense. After word spread about how the Brightwalkers had defeated the largest raider fleet without violence, other peaceful races had reached out. They too wanted to learn how to protect themselves while staying true to their gentle nature. "And how many human teachers have signed up to help?" Tom asked, already knowing the answer. "More than we can accept this year," the first speaker replied. "We had to create a waiting list." The Crystal City had become more than just a home for the Brightwalkers. It was now the center of a new philosophy, one that taught strength through peace. The friend crystals were growing in new caves, ready to be shared with other worlds that needed protection. In the research center, Dr. Ann White worked with Brightwalker healers, teaching a mixed group of humans and aliens. They had discovered that the combination of crystal healing and human medicine could cure diseases that neither civilization could heal alone. "It's amazing," Ann said to a new student. "Every time we think we understand the crystal's full potential, we discover something new." Bill Cooper had stayed behind when Hope's Dawn left, working with the Brightwalkers to develop new defensive technologies. His latest project combined crystal energy with human shield designs, creating barriers that could protect and heal at the same time. The best part, Bill explained to a group of visitors, is that it's completely natural. The crystals do most of the work. We just help guide their energy. Jack Stone, who had taught the first defense classes, now learned from his former students. The Brightwalker's dance of lights had evolved into something more complex, a combination of defense, healing, and communication that other species were eager to learn. I came to teach, Jack said, watching his students practice. But I ended up learning a whole new way of thinking about protection. The raiders never returned to the Crystal City. Stories spread across the galaxy about the peaceful beings who could turn an attack back without firing a shot. Some former raiders even came to learn, seeking a better way of life. In the Crystal Caves, human scientists and Brightwalker crystal shapers worked together to grow new friend crystals. Each crystal contained the combined knowledge of both species, human determination and Brightwalker healing wisdom. "Look at this," a young Brightwalker said, showing a new crystal formation to Tom. "It's growing in the pattern of Earth's continents. The crystals remember our friends." The first speaker touched the crystal, their glow synchronizing with its light. "Our peoples will always be connected now, not just as allies, but as teachers to the galaxy." Earth had established a permanent embassy in the Crystal City. Other peaceful species were building their own centers nearby. What had started as a simple call for help had grown into something much larger, a place where different species could learn to be strong without losing their gentler nature. Tom looked out over the city one last time before heading back to Earth. The crystal towers shimmered in the light of the twin suns, their glow now mixed with the soft blue light of the Brightwalkers and the steady pulse of friend crystals. "We came to teach them how to defend themselves," Tom thought, "but they taught us that true strength comes in many forms." The first speaker's glow pulsed with friendship. "Safe journey, Tom. Remember, you will always have a home here among the crystals." As Tom's ship lifted off, the entire city lit up in a farewell display of lights and colors. It was more than just a goodbye. It was a promise that this friendship between humans and Brightwalkers would light the way for generations to come.